So ideally, in any real-time project now this day, people not preferred XML, as I told you, they have a configuration file. So whatever bean you want to define, you can define something like this. Create a Java class, annotate that class at the rate of configuration. And this at the rate of configuration is coming from the Java, Spring framework. So this particular configuration itself informing the Spring framework. While starting, you have to create the beans defined under this class. It's not like that you can have only one configuration. You can logically segregate the configuration class. So for example, whatever app related things I can put here, let's say you have an account related beans. You can define an account class, and again, on the top of that, you can write configuration. So it's a good practice, and it's also a design principle. Do not try to put all beans in a single thing. So slowly I will tell you, like, let's say this is app config. I have a DB related configuration. I need to create lots of DB objects. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a separate configuration file for at the rate of config. You know, similarly, if you have a e-commerce related, we have a product, we have a category. So whatever beans you want to create. So whatever beans you want to create related to a particular business unit, it's a good practice, create a separate configuration file. Okay.
Yes.
Now let's come to the model class. Okay. So under model class, what I'm going to do, I'm creating a user class. Pretty simple. And then what we are doing is we have user class having ID, one constructor, and another constructor which is taking a parameter that is ID. Let's ignore for timing these two methods. I will talk
Mhm.
about it, and setters and getters method. Now, manager class is pretty simple, as you know that since it is an annotation. So I need to give the class which is having the bean of this particular user class, and I'm simply what checking is context dot get bean get user. Get user is one of the bean. So here's the things. If you want to give a name of your bean, so you can give something like this. But if you are not giving the name like this, then what you can do is you can simply call this by method name itself. So what I'm doing in this manager class, I'm saying, hey, app config, you might have lots of bean, but I'm interested in this get user bean. So once you will say context.get bean, it will give you the object of user class. And this is called conditional operator. I don't know whether you know in core Java or not. This is one of the conditional operator. So what basically conditional operator do, if I write this piece of code, then it should be something like this, uh, if then null else syso. Okay. So how many lines of code we have written for this? 1, 2, 3, 4 line, if else. So if get user is null, let's say the bean is not created, then you're gonna get a null. And if it is null, I'm saying print the null object. But if it is not null, I'm saying print. Okay. but this whole code can be easily converted into conditional operator. So this is conditional operator. Look at this. I'm saying check that if it is null, then print this. If it is not null, then print this. So it's really a good practice. You start using this
Yes.
conditional operator rather than using the if else. It's old technology, and performance wise
Yes.
also it is not good. So this is just a replacement of if else in a single line. So if I run this program now, you will be able to see in the output that okay, two times. Just ignore the init and destroy. Why okay two times? Because bean is created. One okay is coming from this conditional operator, and second is coming from this if else. So idea is very simple. We are getting the user object. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. In Spring, there is something called life cycle of a bean also. There is life cycle of a bean also. What is this life cycle of a bean? From starting to end. So the thread life cycle, servlet life cycle. In thread life cycle also we have a different state. So the moment you created a bean, there is one method which is going to be called init method, which stands for initialization. And there is another method called destroy method. So there is a situation where you many times you need these methods. Let's say example. My requirement is when user object is created, then I want to do some action. I want to execute some piece of code. How can we do that? Just after the bean creation, or just think about that. Just before object creation, I want to do some sort of business logic execution. This is one thing. Second, I want to do some piece of code execution once my program is executed completely. Means JVM is shutting down. So we have a two scenario. If you look at in the real time scenario, for example, somebody saying to you, hey, before user object creation, make sure you are going to define one variable, or you are giving the ID equal to something like this. You need to initialize the ID value, but before object creation. This is one requirement. Somebody is saying to you, hey, once your system is shut down, what you need to do, you need to clean this. You need to close the database connection. Yeah. So where we can put this piece of code? Well, Spring is providing you the two lifecycle method. One is init, another one is the destroy. But in the world of annotation, these two are name is not matters. What matters is these two annotation. One is post construct and second is pre-destroy. Means the moment your initialization is happening, before that, if you have some piece of code you want to execute, you can put into this init method. And before system is going to shut down, you want to execute some piece of code, you can put into this destroy method. So now if I run this program again, you will see that before object creation, init method is called. Let me open this init method again. Can you see that? Init method is
Yes.
automatically called. It's a completely event based. What is event based? Means we are not calling any method. It is automatically executing if some event occurs. So init method and destroy method, we are not calling. We are not calling anywhere this init and destroy method. It is just waiting for certain action to be triggered. What action it is taking? The moment it is saying constructor is going to be execute. Okay, post construct. So how can we verify that whether it is before constructor or after constructor? Just post one system.out.println in your constructor. So if you look at now, can you see that? post constructor, it completely indicates you once your constructor is completed, post that whatever logic you have to execute, you can put into this init method, and this init method will make sure that that logic will be executing, without calling. Similarly, destroy. Once your manager class is completely done with your execution, it is about to shut down, then this destroy method is going to be called. And you just need to annotate any method. It's not like that you have to give init here. You can give ABC, no problem. You can give X, Y, Z, no problem. Still the output will be same. Still the output will be same, because what is happening? Run as maven install. Okay, it's running on JRE, so I need to change to JDK. Yep. So can you see that whatever name I have given, it's not matters. What matters is this two annotation. It's a ABC, XYZ doesn't matter. But yes, post construct means once constructed execute, you have some piece of code to execute. You go with this annotation. And after your system is going to be shut down, before that you want to execute something, you can write the piece of code here. Clear?
Yes, it's clear. Yes.
Oh,
For example, for pre-constructor, what is real life example to create something about before constructor?
I'm sorry. It's a pre-construct you are saying?
Yes.
I'm not sure there is a pre-construct. Let me try.
Okay.
It's a no, there is no such method,
Okay.
pre-construct.
Okay.
It's just a post-construct.
Okay.
Okay, but after there's lots of other methods also, but right now we are not going to use all these things. But post-construct and pre-destroy is the two method for life cycle of a bean. So this might be a very important questions in interview. They might be ask you, what is life cycle of a bean? You have to say there is a two life cycle of a bean. One is init and another one is destroy. And in the Spring Framework, we have a two annotation for that. One is at the rate of post construct, and another one is the at the rate of pre-destroy. Okay,
Yes. Yes.
cool. Let's move ahead. Now, so I have one object, e-commerce class. Can you see that? This e-commerce, it's a very, very important. Try to understand it. So under this e-commerce, I have three dependency. What are those dependency? I have to make sure that before creating e-commerce object, I must have a product, I must have a supplier, I must have a categories bin. Then only this bin is going to be created. And after that, we have a setters getters method for all this. So ideally, when you are creating an e-commerce website, definitely you must have a product there. You must have a supplier who is using this product, and you also have to have one category under which category this product is falling. So this is kinds of real-time flavor. Now, question is, how can we make sure that before creating this e-commerce object, these bins are created? So since it is a logical unit of a e-commerce, so what I did is I have created a separate configuration class again. If you look at this configuration class, what I'm saying is, okay, before that, let's come to db-config. Now, what are the dependency we have? One dependency is, okay, hold on for a second. So we have e-commerce, we have categories.java. It's a pretty simple class. Just imagine we want to instantiate the bean. We have a supplier, pretty simple, and we have a product. And this product is having again a dependency on categories and supplier. Because yes, if you go to Amazon on Flipkart as a seller, you want to sell something, definitely you have to categorize your product, and you also mention your supplier name, your details about your product, which supplier it belongs to. So totally 4 model entity. Start from categories, which is having no relationship with anyone, supplier, which is not having any relationship, product, which is having a relationship with categories and supplier, and finally e-commerce, which is having the relationship with this all three. Now I have to arrange the bean for this. So let's come to the db config first. Under db config, it's straightforward. I define this at the rate of configuration. I define the bean for categories. I define the bean for supplier. But while creating the bean of product, I also mention one more annotation called at the rate of depends on. Try understanding this annotation. This is very important. So I'm saying, hey, Spring Framework, before creating a product object, I need a categories and supplier because product is dependent on categories and supplier. So in this case, what Spring Framework will do, it will first create the bean of categories and supplier before creating the bean of product. Sana, understanding?
Yes, and the instantiation of those two bins will pass it to the method.
Yeah, exactly. The instantiation of this categories and supplier is going to pass to the product, because if you look at the product.java, their constructor is expecting two instance. One is categories, another one is a supplier. So if you try creating the bean of product, but you are not passing the category and supplier, then what will be? You will be getting a exception. A Spring will tell you, since your product is dependent on categories and supplier, but I can't see you are passing a bean of supplier and categories. Make sense?
Yes, makes sense.
Okay, now so what I am doing here, I'm just checking category object is created or not, supplier object is created or not. And in the same fashion, let's also check whether product object is created or not.
Mhm.
Oh, in fact, I'm checking the product only. Look at this. I'm getting the bean of product class, and then I'm calling get categories to make sure categories is created or not. So via product, I'm accessing the categories and supplier.
Mm.
That will give me a clear confirmation the categories and supplier object is created. So if I go to my manager 2, uh, 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 Let's run this class itself. In manager 2. Okay. So here what I'm gonna do is I will say product, and under product this class also have to be changed to product only because we are accessing the bean of product class. And then I'm saying get categories. So that will tell me categories is available, and then after dot get supplier, and here is the supplier. Why this collabary? Oh, fine. Run this. Can you see that categories and supplier I am able to get via the product class? It means what? The bean defined under db config is completely valid. In fact, if you put some sort of categories being created and supplier being created, and now run this manager too, you will be able to see that bean, Spring has first created the category and supplier bean before creating the product bean. So I will also put one statement here. Make sense, right?
Yes,
Because
it makes
product
sense.
is dependent on categories and supplier. So since you have mentioned the depends on, and that is the reason it is going to be do that. But let's say if I am not giving depends on, then what will be? Then there is no guarantee which bean will be created first. Getting the point or
Mm,
not?
yes, yes.
It could be that product bean is going to be created first because you are not informing the Spring framework the product bean is dependent on other beans. So that might be a wrong things. Yeah. So depends on bean is used when your bean is having dependency on other bean. Cool.
Um, if we don't use depends on, uh, Spring is able to know that the parameters of this method are corresponding to an existing bean.
Well, he will be able to understand, but it might be, I don't know how smart Spring framework is.
Mhm.
Let's try checking that. They used to modify always some things. Maybe they have
Mhm.
captured this also. Let's try running and see whether we are right or not. Yeah, so they did it. There's a
Yes.
smartness of that. But let's try keeping this bin creation on the top. And then after see what's happening. Still it is doing so.
Mhm.
Category
Mhm.
supplier bin. So now Spring is not basically dependent on this annotation, rather than it is also checking the product is having dependency on supplier and categories. So I need to create a bean for these two. Got the point or
Yes.
not?
Yes.
So what basically this depends on annotation is saying to you, but it's always a safer side to put a depends on annotation.
Yes.
A Spring forces the IOC container to initialize one or more beans. This annotation is directly used or on any class or indirectly annotation with at the rate of component or method annotation with at the rate of bean. Okay. So actually it's force that is more important. But I can see I'm in the latest Spring version maybe. So they have included that smartness, but in the older version of Spring, it was mandatory to give depends on. Got it or not?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now let's come to the e-commerce. Now look at the magic. Under this, we have a e-commerce. I think before coming to this part, I need to show you the auto wiring. That is very much important concept in Spring. So what is auto wiring? Auto wiring in the sense you have class A object created and class A object is going to be used by class B. I want a Spring framework to automatically connect that A and B together. Confusing? Let's see the example. Then you will be understanding in more better way. Okay. I have a address.java, which is having city and state. Okay. It's a pretty simple bean class, address class, city, state. Now I have a person class. What this person class is doing? Person class is having ID, first name, last name, and one property of address class. Okay. So meaning is what? When you are creating a person class object, you also have to create an object of address class. In our XML, if you come to the XML side, under this XML, what I did, I created a bean of address class separately. I created a bean of person class separately. Now question is, how can I connect this person class with the address class? Sana, are you with me?
Yes, I'm thinking how.
Yeah, let me, it's quite confusing to understand. So I have a person class which is having the three properties of a string type, ID, first name, last name, something like this. It's a primitive data type. But under the person class, one property I hold, which is a address type. Now I am asking the Spring framework, hey Spring, whenever you are creating a person class bean, make sure you are giving me the address class bean also. Now what I'm doing, I am creating an address class bean here, which is a completely independent bean. Here also it is an independent bean. How can we make a link? There is one way. What is that way? Property name, address, and instead of value, I'm saying reference, and then after I'm giving the reference
Mm,
something like this.
yes.
Okay. So this is called wiring. Remember, what is wiring and what is auto wiring? Let's try understanding first that part. And what I will do, I will comment this part as well. And I will also comment this part as well. So it will be pretty simple for you to understand. And we have a manager class. Get bin P1. Get bin P1. Okay, cool. Now see, address class pretty simple. City state. Ignore the comment part.
Mhm.
Person class pretty simple. Having address class. Now under the configuration, I define an address class. I'm saying, okay, that's fine. I have a two properties, city and state. I'm done with the bin creation of address. While creating a person class object, I found that my person class is holding the one property of address class. So the moment you are trying to create a bin, Spring will ask you, hey, you have one property address. Can you help me? Which bin is belongs to this address? I'm giving a reference. I'm saying, hey, Spring, when you are creating a person class object, I have one property of address type. So I'm not going to define the city and state here. Rather than I'm giving you a reference of address class, which is defined by this name. Spring is saying, okay, I don't have any problem now. While running your person class, you will be getting an address class also. Let's run this program. And can you see that? I'm having
Yes.
get ID, get first name, last name also. And I also have an address class object. That is the reason via person class, I'm accessing the address. And once I have an address, I'm going to print city and state. It means what? Our wiring concept is working perfectly fine. This is called wiring.
Yes.
Sana, getting the point?
Yes. Yes.
So this, I'm basically linking the two beans via this reference. But now situation has changed. What situation has changed? I'm too lazy to give this reference. I'm saying, I'm sorry, Spring. I will not give you reference. Why can't you go and scan my configuration file and find out what is the bean for me? Oh my God, I'm expecting a lot from Spring. I'm saying I will not give you a wiring concept. Rather than you come up with your auto wiring. Auto stands for automatic wiring.
Oh, okay.
Are you getting my point? So this wiring
Yes.
concept was the old concept. Now you don't need to give this reference. Spring Framework is smart enough to go and scan this whole configuration, and it will figure it out. Okay, person class is having one bean of address type. So let me figure out which is class of address type. Okay, this is the address class. Fine, I will attach this bean to this person class. So now whether you are writing this reference or not, that's not matter a lot. But what matters is under person class, you have to put at the rate of auto wide. This is now important. The moment you put auto wide on the address type, Spring will automatically go and find out the address bean for you. So now if I run this program again, it will be not failing. It is still giving me the address and state, city and state. Why? Because now Spring is saying I'm auto wired concept using. You don't need to give me reference. I will automatically find out this. Got the point or not?
Yes.
So this is auto wired annotation, which is going to be widely used in the world of Spring Framework. So it's very, very important for you to understand. What is auto wired? Whenever we have a two bin and one bin is dependent on another bin, how can I link that bin? Very simple, by using the auto wiring concept.
Uh, in the configuration.xml, there was a line context annotation config. Is it related to the
Yes,
rate at where?
it is required when you are using the annotation based
Oh,
configuration.
okay.
So this is the annotation based configuration, no? So yes, you need that. Okay.
And in the case where we don't use a config.xml file, how can we tell
I will
them?
come on that. I will come on that.
Okay.
Okay. Now, one more very interesting point. Let's say there is no limitations of defining the bean. You can define a bean of same class 100 times. Are you getting my point? So here I have a one address class bean with the name of address 1. I have another address class bean with the address 2. You can have address 3, address 4, address 5. Yes, you can have multiple bean of a same class, and the property value can be changed. Obviously, if you have a same property, there is no point to have a multiple bean. But think about the scenario. Now, inside your configuration, you have a two address class bean. In person class, you are saying auto wire. When you say auto wire, Spring will be confused. When he is going to the configuration file, he found the two bean of address class. He's totally confused now. Hey, person class have to wire with address 2 or address 1. So when Spring is confused, you will be getting exception. Look at this. Spring is saying that no qualifying bean for address available, expected single matching, but found two. Very clear exception. Now, person class is saying, no, 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 no. I want to connect with my address 2. Address 2 bean. But Spring is saying, I'm sorry, I don't know. How can I come to know whether you want address 1 or address 2? And that's where the another annotation comes in picture called at the rate of qualifier. Now, when to use at the rate of qualifier? Pretty simple. When you have more than one bean of a single class and you are asking a Spring to auto wire, then you have to help Spring Framework saying that, yes, I want you to auto wire this, but you will be getting two bean of address class. Ignore the address one. Whatever name I'm giving to you, you just auto wire with this name. So now if I run this program, the confusion is solved and you are going to get Delhi, Delhi. Why it's giving Delhi, Delhi? Because it is connected with now address 2. If you have a single bean, there is no another bean. If I don't have this, then probably you don't need to give this at the rate of qualifier. Simple. Spring will do automatically. Only requirement of at the rate of qualifier is whenever you have a two bean of same class and you want to do auto wiring. Sana, am I confusing you? Are you getting?
No, it's clear.
It's clear or not?
Yes,
You
it's
understood
clear.
auto wired first? What is auto
Yes,
wiring?
auto wired, we use it if it just we have only one bean, and qualifier if there is a confusion and there is many beans. So
Ah,
Spring dot, yeah,
yes, Spring got confused. So you have to
yeah,
help Spring to understand that which bean you are connecting
using,
with.
yeah.
Let's take a real-time example. So you have one bean of Oracle database, one bean of SQL database, one bean of H2 database, one bean of different database. Now person class is saying connect with database. Obviously, Spring will confuse. He will ask you which database. You have so many database being defined in your configuration. Oracle, MySQL. Then you have to mention, okay, I want to connect with Oracle. So you have to mention the at the rate of qualifier Oracle because all beans are from the same class. That could be the database class. Okay,
Yes,
understood by auto wiring?
yes, it's clear.
Yeah. So you don't need to now give reference and all. So this is in
Mhm.
XML. What we're gonna do now? We are going to see in annotation how can we achieve the same logic. So app config is done, DV config is done, where we have defined all the properties like category, supplier, and product. It's time to open the other config. Now, here is the auto wiring again. Now, e-commerce is saying I need product also. I need supplier also. I need categories also. The moment a Spring will found at the rate of configuration, it will start creating the bean defined under this class. While defining the at the rate of bean, it will be checking that, okay, he need product, he has did auto wide for product, he needs supplier, he need the supplier, categories, he also did the categories. But where is the bean defined for product, supplier, and categories? A Spring will start looking, is there any bean defined with the product in the same class? There is no bean defined under the same class. There is only one bean defined for e-commerce. Again, it will check, is there any bean defined for supplier in the same class? There is no bean defined under that. So now if I go to manage 2 and if I run it, I will be going to get exception. And this exception is saying no qualifying bean for product, supplier, and categories. Why? Because the moment it comes to this class, it is checking there is no bean for product, there is no bean for supplier, there is no bean for categories. And that is the reason it's failing. Now, what you are saying to the Spring? No, 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 no. Our product, supplier, and categories beans are defined under db config. Oh, it is here. Spring is asking, then how can I come to know your bean are defined where? Just give me some information. And what is that information? That information is at the rate of import. Now what I'm doing, the moment other configs are going to be loaded, I'm saying Spring, before creating a bean of this class, go and create the bean of this db config and import the all beans into this class. Since bean are already defined under db config, so what other config are doing? It is just doing auto wiring. Just now you
Yes.
understood, right? Auto wiring. You don't need
Yes.
to give any reference.
Yes.
Beans are created. Spring will automatically understand. Let's wire this with the product. Let's wire it with this supplier. Let's wire it with these categories. And we also not have to give qualifier. Why? Because there's a single bean for all this. Understanding or not?
Mhm. Yes. Yes. It's clear.
So if I give too many beans of categories, then I have to use again at the rate of qualifier. So now if I run manager 2, there will be no problem. Everything is working as expected. Look at this. E-commerce object is created with this supplier, categories, and product. So what you understood here? First things, auto wiring. Once bean are created, you can do auto wiring anywhere in the Spring framework. There is no problem at all. But make
Mhm.
sure that bean supposed to be created before doing auto wiring. You
Mhm.
cannot blindly go and do a auto wiring.
Yes.
First bean creation, then auto wiring. Now, second is, if my bean are defined in the different configuration file and I want to use that into my other configuration file, what is the annotation? At the rate of import. With the help of at the rate of import, how you are importing the libraries? Look at this Java class. Similarly, you are importing a configuration of another class into a other class.
Yes.
Make sense?
Yes. It makes sense. Yes.
Very good. So I want you to completely practice this folder. This is
Mhm.
very, very important. Okay, let's move ahead. Now, here is the things. When you talk about the real time, in real time, we cannot give product ID, product name, product supplier as a fixed value. It is dynamic, right? Think about the database. Ideally, we are not going to give a database value into a bean defining time. I cannot give properties of any bean in the Java class. How we are using the properties? Via properties file. We are going to introduce now properties file. Whatever static, whatever dynamic values are there. For example, user.id. I cannot fix always it 100. My client wants to change it to 200. If I ask him to change into the Java code, he might messed up my code. So what we're gonna ask my client, I will give you my properties file. You modify the changes here and our application will pick the value from this file. That's the intention. Sana, are you understanding?
Yes. Yes.
So whatever hard coded values are there, we should not go and let's say welcome message itself. So you are running a product, you have given to the Bank of America, you have given this to Citibank, you have given this to HDFC Bank. So your project is going to be used by many banks. You cannot just say welcome HDFC in every project because Citibank will tell you, hey, I am not HDFC Bank, I am a Citibank. Bank of America will tell you, hey, why you are giving HDFC? I am a Bank of America. So what you will do, you will simply give them a properties and tell them, here is the option you can define. If you are a Bank of America, you write, welcome to Bank of America. If you are a Bank of Citibank, you just define, welcome to Citibank, right? Remaining
Yes.
functionalities are same. Your client can modify the things according to their requirement. Now, question is, how can I read this value into my application? Well, Spring is having a very simple annotation for you. What is that annotation? At the rate of property source. Whatever properties file you have, please put into the resources folder. Now, while creating, while loading this class property config, I'm asking a Spring Framework, hey, go to my resources folder and load this application.properties file. Spring will simply go to this resources folder and it will load the application.properties file. Now,
Uh, the nomination of the file is fixed, or we can name it whatever.
you can give any name. That's not like
Mhm.
that. But remember this class path you have to give because it is a
Mhm.
syntax of property source. Class path colon and then slash whatever your properties file name is that. Usually we used to give application.properties, but you can give abc.properties. No problem at all. Got it or not?
Yes.
Now, I want to define a bean of this property config itself. Hold on. Yes, I want to define a bean of a string class. So, a string class is having a hello, greetings contains dollar. So, new runtime exception, return greetings. And we also have user greetings. Mhm. Let's remove this bean for the time being. Okay, now, so the moment application.properties file is loaded, now I want to pick the value from this application.properties. What is the first value I want to pick up? User.id value. Very simple. You have another annotation called at the rate of value. You just give the key of your properties file value, properties file in this syntax. What is the syntax? Dollar and your key. Dollar, open braces, close braces. Then what Spring will do, since your application.properties file is defined, it will be going to the application.properties file. It is checking where is the key with the name of user.id. It found, okay, there is a key for user.id. It will automatically initialize this ID with the value which is 100. Similarly, for greetings, I'm saying go to the application.properties file, find out the greetings and initialize my properties called greetings. Similarly, hello message. Are you getting my point or not? So
Yes.
here, application.properties is low, having the all variables value. Now I'm going to one by one read that properties value. I'm sorry, you might be getting some, background noise of my little champ. He's he's screaming
it's,
like anything. So I'm sorry for.
it's no, no, it's not a problem. It's beautiful to hear kids playing.
Oh, great! Thank you, thank you. And I can see you are a very good lover of pet. You are a pet lover, right? You have a
Yes.
very good pushy. I have seen that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, what's her name?
I don't have a name for her. It was a stray cat. Then I adopted her.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So now you have written the user ID value, you have written the greetings, you written the string hello. And now what I'm doing, I'm creating a bean of this string and passing this greetings value to make sure that whether I'm able to get this value or not. Similarly, creating a bean of user class, passing the ID value, and under the manager 4, I'm just printing that. Let's run this program. Very cool. Can you see that? Welcome to the world of
Yes.
Spring Init. So it is returning us. In fact, the bean of user class is also created. If you want, you can call the get ID method. Hold on. So let's go to the user class and we have get ID, right? So dot, oh, I see. So what I need to do is user dot class dot get ID. So if I run it, can you see that we are getting the welcome to the world of Spring value from properties file and the 100
Yes.
value also from the properties file. So this is very important. In real-time project, people don't write the hard-coded value into the
Mhm.
application. Rather than they used to put the properties file and they used to define the all properties here, especially the database properties. Why?
Yes.
Because database properties can change according to the client. Somebody is using the Oracle, somebody is using the SQL Server, somebody is using the H2. So according to that, these properties values are changing. So you cannot put into the Java file. If you put into the Java file, then every time same value is going. Rather than define a properties file, put the all values, your application will pick whatever value is defined under this properties file. Got it or not?
Yes. Yes. It's clear. Um, I just have a question. For
Yeah.
example, if we add the database connection in application properties and we add the password,
Hmm.
so how can we hide the password if we push the code to GitHub, for
Hmm.
example? Or...
That's a very good question. So ideally now this day in every organization, there is something called single sign-in. You know single sign-in?
No.
So once you log in into your Windows system, then automatically the password of your Windows system is going to be carry forward in every application.
Yes, yes, that's what we have.
You
We
have,
are connected to using Windows directly without writing a user or a password.
yeah, that's called single
Yes.
sign-in. Matlab, once you log in your system, you are ready to use anything in that company like database, website,
Mhm.
any portal, whatever they have. That's called single sign-in. So in fact, for database also now this day, I have noticed many companies are using the single sign-in. So in real-time project, you might not have to give the username and password for database because it
Mhm.
will fetch it internally from your Windows directly. Are you
Mhm.
getting my point?
Yes,
But
yes.
let's say database password. Yes, it's not so confidential, to be very frank. Nobody can hack this. Whoever is an application owner, they are only going to use this application. So they can easily give username password under this application dot properties also. That's not a big
Mhm.
problem because it's not going to be deployed over the server and someone can hack this. It's an administrator who is
Yes.
going to use that. In production environment, they can easily pass that. Or you should not give the value here. That is another way also. That's what I want to talk about. You
Mhm.
know system variable?
I heard about it. Yes.
Okay, you must be knowing. Environment variable you must be knowing. So
Mhm.
right click on the
Yes.
my PC, go to properties, huh? Advanced system settings. Then you have an environment variable, and then you have a many variables defined here. So you can define your password here also at the time of
Yes.
working on your system. So for example, let's say I want to access the value of one drive here, which I defined here. Spring is giving you the option of that as well. You just give this one drive, and instead of greetings, let me return system variable. Okay, let me run manager
Yes.
4. Hopefully, aha, can you see
Yes.
that? I'm also
Mhm.
able to read the value of environment variable. So somebody's password is very confidential. What they can do before running the application, they can set
You.
into the environment
Mhm.
variable, and once their
Yes.
work is done, they can remove it from the environment variable because laptop only he is going to use, right? Or
Yes.
while running this application, you can pass some password into this arguments also. You know this Java main args. Have you ever used this
Mhm.
command line?
Uh, long time ago. Yes.
Not it. Okay. So while running this Java application, you can pass that as well. So I'm saying args 0. So now what I have to do, right click on this, run as configuration. You have to click on run configuration. Under run configuration, you will see arguments. And under this arguments, you have a program argument. So if I give ABC, apply, run. Aha, can you see that? ABC is coming.
Yes.
So this is completely while running time. No one have to fix their
Yes.
password. You can pass the password like
Mhm.
this while running time. Make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. Yes.
Okay, so idea here to make you sure that how to read a properties file, what is the use of at the rate of property source, and how we can read the value of properties file at the rate of value annotation. This is the two things I want to discuss under that. And once you are okay with that, then that's all with the IOC. There is no much complexity here.
Mhm.
It's pretty simple.
Yes.
At the rate of bean, that's all. At the rate of configuration and at the rate of bean. So today you learn what are the things. First things you learn
Right.
at the rate of configuration, at the rate of bean. Then you learn at the rate of depends on, what the user depends on. Then you learn at the rate of import. How can I import the bean defined in one configuration to other bean? Then you learn auto wired. How can I link my one bean to the other bean? Then you learn at the rate of property source. How can I load the property file defined or loaded stored in my resources folder? And then you learn how to read at the rate of value the properties file. Not only properties file. Let's say you define some property which is not in your properties file. Then Spring Framework will go to your system variable, that is your environment variable, and it will check at least user has defined there. If you found yes, it is there, then it will pick up that value also. Let's say you are picking a key which is not even in your properties file, not even in your environments variable, and then you try running that, you will get exception. And that's obvious, right? It
Yes.
is simply saying to you, hey, there is no value for, there is no exception. That's a good
Mhm.
point. It is simply printing that value. It is saying, hey, there is no value for this. I'm sorry. I didn't found in your properties file also. I didn't found in your system variable also. So that's the reason I'm simply printing the key to you. Make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. For I think yes, in this one for greetings, there is a method returning the result of greetings.
I'm sorry, come again. What you're saying?
I think there is a bin returning the result of greetings. I saw something in the code, something through exception, something. If there is
Uh,
a dollar sign,
line number, can you help me with that? Where you're
uh,
talking?
I'm not sure if it's in other config maybe.
Okay.
Java.
You're saying about this?
Yes, this one, yes. So for this one, it is just like a test if greetings contain a value or not. If it returns the name of the variable, it will
Right.
throw.
Right, right,
Yes.
right. Yes. So that's the purpose of that class.
Mhm.
So let's give hello only and try saying that. It's there. Now, if I go greetings one, it's not available. So it's failing.
Mhm.
It failed to instantiate runtime exception. If it
Yes.
found dollar, it means that you can easily say that you are not able to read the value
Mhm.
if you want to break that. That's the
Yes.
intention here. Got it?
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, so we are done with this part. Let's move ahead. We can continue, right, Sana? Or
Yes. 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 We can continue. Yes.
okay. The next important concept under this is dependency injection.
Mhm.
So so if I go here and define one file here called right new dependencies injection. So mostly people used to say IOC is nothing but it's a dependency injection. Some people used to say that as well. But ideally, IOC is a design pattern and dependency injection is the way to achieve that. You know, so
Mhm.
Spring provide basically two types of dependency injection. One is shatter injection and second is constructor injection. So we have a two kinds of injection. Whatever example you have seen, that all are setters injection. Why? Because we were having the setters method, right? To initialize
Yes.
the properties of your bean, you are using the setters method. But you can also initialize the property of your bean via constructor, right or not? So two way you can define your property. So if I talk about this, hello IOC Maven, let's come to the book.java. So here I'm defining the properties of ID by setters method, set ID, set name, set price. But you can also do something like this. Right click, source, constructor using fields, generate. This is also one of the way, right? While
Yes.
creating an object, we can pass the value of ID, name, price, and it will be going to be initialized. So this is called constructor injection. Whenever you are defining a bean via constructor injection, then how we can do that, that's the next concept. Okay, so come to the concept. Setters injection we have already seen. Whatever examples we have seen, that all are setters injection. It's time to see the constructor injection. To be very frank, constructor injection are very rarely used. People are not using very frequently. But since it is a
Mhm.
concept and one of the important concept from an interview point of view also, so we need to learn this as well.
Yes.
Okay, look at this. We have a class A, which is having parameter 1, parameter 2. But I don't have any setters and getters method. Rather than I have a constructor who is going to initialize this value, and then we have a toString method which is going to print this value. So setters method is replaced by this constructor and getters method is replaced by this toString method. Make sense?
Yes.
Because getter method is giving you the value. So toString method is also doing the same. Setters method is
Mhm.
initializing the parameters and constructor is also doing the same. Now, while coming to the defining a bean, how can we do that? So let's talk about first in XML. While defining a bean of constructors, very simple. You just need to use constructor arg. Understood or not? Instead
Mhm.
of property, if you remember the previous example where we have defined, it was having property. Can you see that property, property,
Yes.
property? But since it is a constructor, so what I need to do? The tag name is
Constructor.
constructor argument. I am saying while defining a class bean, you will see one constructor. There is a two arguments required here. So for zero index, give this value. And if you want to give a name, you can give something like this also. Index one, value this. Getting the point? So
Yes.
we are saying to a Spring framework, whenever you are creating a class bean, you will find one constructor. For zero parameter, this is the value. For sorry, first parameter, this is the value, and for second parameter, this is the value. If you want, you can give instead of index, you can also give the name. That is also acceptable. Either index, either name. So if I come to manager class, and if I try taking the tick 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 tick, we have a A1, right? So why can't we go and where I am? Not here. I'm sorry, my bad. So come to manager class, and what I'm doing basically here, I'm accessing the bean of A class, and you will be able to get a bean of A class. The reason is you have defined the constructor injection. Let's run it. Can you see that? I'm getting param1 value ABC and
Mhm.
parameter 2 value XYZ. It means what? Constructor injection is working as expected. Whatever value you have given for first param, it's taking that as well. Param 2, it's taking as well. Yes or no?
Yes.
So this is the constructor injection. Now, come to the B class. Under B class, we have a two constructor. One is initializing the string parameter 1 and another one is initializing the parameter 2. Think about the confusion here. What is the confusion? Confusion is if I say index equal to 0. Sana, it is quite crucial to understand. Try to focus here.
Mhm.
So while defining a bean of B class, your Spring framework came to this B class. There is a two constructor. And you are also saying, go and give the index 0. I mean, you will see one constructor, pass the value to 1 to 3. When a Spring framework came to the B class, he again confused. He's saying, oh my God, this user is having the two constructor. This is also index 0. This is also index 0. How can your Spring framework will understand whether you are passing the parameter value for this constructor or this constructor? Because you are saying index 0 and index 0 is valid for both constructor. Understanding or not?
So the index is the method, the constructor, it's called the constructor parameter index, not the class variables.
No. This is just a constructor arguments is saying go to B class. You will see one constructor and give the value to the first parameters. So when it came to the B class, it's found one constructor having the index 0. Suddenly he found there is another constructor which is also having the single parameter.
Mhm.
So index 0 is valid for this constructor also and this constructor also.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's where the Spring is confused.
Mhm.
So now when a Spring is confused, you will get exception. Okay, somebody can tell that why can't you give param1 here? Confusion is gone. Instead of that, you just say name equal to param1. Now Spring can easily understand this value is for a constructor which is having the parameter value name as a param1, and he can easily reach to this part. Yes or no?
Yes.
But still there is a confusion. It's always possible you can have two constructor something like this, and both are having the param1. Can you see that? Confusion
Yes.
is still there. This is called constructor overloading. It's a pure core Java concept, right? One constructor with a string parameter, another constructor with the float parameter. So now if Spring will came again parameter 1, he will be again confused. He will say, oh my God, here is also param 1. And another constructor is also having the param 1 only. So confusion is still there. So now index is also not working. Name is also not working. So what is the third option we have? The third option, you have a type. Type. Why type will work? Because you cannot give the same type in two constructor. It will give you error. See,
Yes.
the type supposed to be always unique for each constructor. So here, when you are defining a bean for class B, you are saying go to the constructor, their data type is integer. It will come here, it will found, okay, this constructor is having an integer parameter. So the bean will be created successfully. Again, while creating another bean of B2 class, B class, you are saying type is a string. Then what it will do? It will go to the B class. It will find, is there any constructor which is having the string type? Yes, it is there. It will create the bean for this also. And now manager2 class can easily access B1 and B2. Let's run this program. Param1 is null because first time you are just passing the integer value. So this parameter is null. Second time you are passing a param1 value. So param2 is null. Sana, it is quite confusing for you, but it's straightforward. Let me repeat for you again. Spring is providing you two ways to create your bean: constructor injection and the setters injection. Setters injection is initializing or property wise setters method. And in that case, instead, while defining a bean, you have to give a setters method. Setters method must be inside your class if you are using setters injection. Second way is that constructor injection. Constructor should must be there once you are using the constructor injection. In constructor injection, we have a three way to pass the value: index, name, and type. Type is the best way. Why? Because index can give you confusion. Two constructor can have same index. Name can give you confusion because two constructor can have same name, but type can never give you confusion because there is no possibilities two constructor can have a same type. So these are the different flavor. If you don't have the confusion, you have a single constructor, you can go like this way. That is perfectly work fine. So this is way you can use that. But I'm wondering, do I have an example of constructor injection in annotation, or is there a concept or not? Let me see that first. Looks like constructor injection is only valid for XML, not for annotation. By the way, I never used the constructor injection in any of my projects so far. Just for your reference purpose, I given you knowledge, but that is not valid in the case of annotation, it seems. Okay, Sana? So even though you are not
Yes.
getting this 100%, that's not a big deal. It's still fine. But if you go through this video again, you will definitely understand it. Okay.
Yes.
Life cycle of annotation, we have already talked. Now what? Annotation with collection. Let's see how this gonna be work. What we have here. You have a product.java, and under product.java, you have a list of product. Okay. Then you have a product one. It is also having a list of product. That's fine. Come to the resources folder. Here you have the same hello world, nothing much. App config. Yes. Now, you are trying to create an object of product class. Pretty simple. You have one empty constructor. You can create a bean like this also. But whenever you are trying to create a bean of product one, what it is expecting you, you have to give the list of product. And that's where the second bean stands for product one. So while creating a bean of product one, I am creating a list of product: stationery, groceries, health, like this. In fact, we are also creating a string object also, right?
Yes.
So if we not give bean name, then by default bean name will be the method name. Okay, that I already told you. So if you not give the name like this, then the bean name is your method name itself. And pretty simple. If you come to the manager class, what I'm doing, I'm printing a print product list, and you will be able to see the all proper list of product. So I just want to give you the flavor of how you can use collection object. This is collection, right? List. List is a collection, set is a collection, map is a collection. So if you have something like this, you need to create a bean like this. That's all. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
At the rate import, we use it only in the configuration class.
At the rate of bean or at the rate of,
Import.
sorry, come again.
At the rate of import.
At the
Uh,
rate of import is only used in the configuration class, which is here.
just because I saw Autowire, I thought that I always need to use other import to use Autowire.
Autowire can be used anywhere. If you're defining bean, same bean in the same class, you can do autowiring. That's not a problem. Autowire is not dependent on at the rate of import.
Okay.
Autowire is a separate concept.
Mhm.
Okay. If you have one bean
Yes.
here, one bean here, you can easily do the autowiring here itself in your code.
Mhm.
Okay, so
It's clear.
that's all. Let's see what else we have in our annotation based configuration. This must be the same. So what we have here is student.java, roll number, name, generic configuration. You remember the scope.
Yes.
So how can we give the scope of a bean here? This is the way you can give a scope. At the rate
Mm.
of scope, singleton, prototype, session, request, whatever you have, you can give here. And also life cycle of method also you can define here. You can say init method, whatever your init method is there, destroy method, whatever your destroy method is there. So you come to this student class, I have init method and destroy method, life cycle method. So while creating a bean of this class, a student class, I'm already defining this bean is a singleton, and this bean is also holding the init and destroy method. So whoever will create a bean of this class, a student class, you know, they're gonna get init and destroy method also called. Can you see that? Init and destroy.
Yes.
Okay, so these all are very simple example. To be very frank, there is no much
Mhm.
complexity. You can go through that, and if you found any difficulties, I will be there to help you out.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Okay, we have a.java application context. Okay, this code is not in working condition. Let me fix that, then I will come back to you. Auto wiring annotation we have already seen. Bean factory post processor, what is that? Oh, this is the old way to access the properties file, so there is no need to go into
Okay.
this as well. Ignore this.
Scary code.
It's not required to know which is not required in your daily development.
Mhm.
Simply wasting your time.
Yes.
Hello world. Again, this is hello world example. Okay, so this is quite interesting. Bean post processor. So what is bean post processor? Let's say you want to execute some piece of logic before your bean initialized and after your bean initialized. So this is the two things. One, before bean initialization, and second, after bean initialization. So in that case, you can use the one interface called bean post processor. So if you look at this example, I'm accessing the hello world bean. And if I run this program now, you will be able to see before bean initialization. This method is called, and once your bean is initialized completely, then also after initialization is going to be called. So this is one of the example for sometime you have a requirement. So how your requirement will come, I will tell you. Your manager can tell you, hey, Sana, what I want when bean is created, then you check this properties is available or not. Are you getting my point? So
Yes.
your yeah, somebody can tell you that whatever bean you received, whether this bean is holding the unique ID or not. How can you do that? Your bean is defined, then you have to check whether the ID is there or not. If ID is there, then proceed. If not there, throw the exception. So this kinds of requirement is always there. So that time you can use the
Yes.
bean post processor. Okay, I don't think so. We have anything very fancy now. Almost everything has been covered, important concept here. You just go through this again, and wherever you found the
Yes.
difficulties, please let me know. We will be discussing on this. But please practice.
Yes.
And next class, we are going to see the Spring DAO, Spring
Yeah.
JDBC.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
thank you. No problem. Bye,
Thank you.
Sana.
Bye. Have a good day.
You too have a good day. Bye bye.
Thank you.